Hey everybody, Happy New Year. Welcome back into Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Georgia 42, Ohio State 41. The Peach Bowl is in the books. It was one hell of a game, and Ohio State wound up coming up one play short at the end. And it's always hard in these games to just pinpoint that and say it was only that field goal or it was only something else before that. But Ohio State will look at this and they'll leave and feel like that was how close they were. A very banged up Ohio State team that thought it was going to be relatively healthy. That did not turn out to be the case after all. Not really sure where else to go with that. This one is going to sting Ohio State for a long time. A lot of people in this tunnel, in this locker room to my right, are feeling those emotions pretty raw. They thought that they had this game won. They did enough to win. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. That's the longest intro of all time.
Yeah, I mean, this one feels a lot like the 2019 Fiesta Bowl against Clemson, where Ohio State came in really with a game plan that was working, and they knew it was working. And then things happen where you get your key players removed from the game, and by the time it's over, you're in the middle of crunch time without the best receiver in America, without your starting tight end. Mayan Williams obviously still not able to go on the ankle that we all thought he was because we were told he was. So, and that, not that would have really mattered. I don't think the running game was meant to be a distraction tonight and let C.J. Stroud cook when he played the best game of his career. Certainly did everything that he could to win. And it's one of these nights where Ohio State is going to look back at it and say, it could have been this, it could have been that, it could have been, needing 8 more yards on first down and 10 when you're at the 32-yard line with 30 seconds to go, and the Buckeyes decide to run the ball, which I don't necessarily disagree with entirely. I think Georgia probably wasn't expecting that. It just didn't hit. But for a team that played all night, extremely loose, extremely aggressive, we saw a coaching staff entering the building that was looser than we've ever seen them. The fact that Ryan Day didn't try to throw a knockout punch there was surprising to me. And I think ultimately it wouldn't have, you're not going to blame a kicker, you're not going to blame one thing or the other, but it's just a conglomeration of events that did not go Ohio State's way, despite the fact that I think the 79,000 people that were in this building really realized that Ohio State at their best, especially offensively, is better than everyone in the country. And they did a lot of great things and just came short.
That still wasn't even what their best could have looked like, because Jackson Smith-Njigba was on the sideline in sweats, still limping around from the hamstring. Travion Henderson had a brace on his left leg. I don't know what else to call that apparatus. After his surgery, Mayan Williams barely played. Marvin Harrison was removed, as you said, late. Cade Stover was removed in the first half. All right, well, those are 5 of the best players in the country at their position. Maybe not the best at every single time, but among them, top 5, let's say, at every single spot. And Marvin Harrison in the back of the end zone there. I don't know how it wasn't targeting. I'm not going to say that call swung it one way or the other, Sean Wade style.
What day is it? I said I was going to talk about it the day of the game, right?
Yeah, you weren't. And so, but let's not. I mean, it doesn't matter. He wanted to go back in. He did not seem to have a concussion. He seemed quite lucid in post-game. He talked about it. He didn't dodge. He wanted his helmet back and he didn't get it. That's great that they were erring on the side of caution, the medical training staff. I'm not going to point fingers at that either. But either the refs had to be working against Ohio State on that specific play, and then the training staff saw something that they didn't like. If one of those things doesn't go against Ohio State, against quote-unquote Ohio State, maybe it's a different situation. I don't know. It's just crazy how this seems to happen every time. More often than not to Ohio State.
It does feel like sometimes following this team or rooting for this team as the people out there watching, it seems like a comedy of errors in a way that not that it's error, but it's just a matter of like how many things can go wrong. I mean, Georgia gets a huge. Ohio State stops Georgia on 4th and 6 from the 13-yard line, and they review it and somehow overturn it. I don't know how that was I don't know what they could have seen to overturn that. I'm not sure how they throw a flag for targeting and then decide it wasn't when it was a clear knockout shot to the helmet. I was 4 feet away from it. You could hear it. He got knocked out when it happened. Julian Fleming immediately was calling for help on the sideline because he was knocked out. That doesn't happen if you get hit in the shoulder. regardless of whether or not he bounced back and was ready to go. That's because he's a tough kid. But it's I don't want to focus on the referees because it shouldn't matter. What matters is that Ohio State proved that they belonged in this game, and I think that was an important thing for the Buckeyes to do. Post-game Ryan Day, post-game CJ Stroud, you can just sense that they know they missed another opportunity. And that's the problem in the last 25 years of Ohio State football, is that there are so many of these what-if moments. And this one goes back all the way to the third series of the game against Notre Dame when Jackson Smith and Jigba gets hurt. This season was a missed opportunity for Ohio State, and there's really no other way to say it. We can dial down, and it's all the minutia that happened in this game specifically, and we'll do that over the next few days. But the big picture is that it's another opportunity to win a national championship that is now swiped away, in an Ohio State program that will have to enter 2023 with some big changes at big positions. And you know, talking to a lot of the guys, you said, like, some of them are very distraught. Obviously, most of the time, that's the guys that are leaving the program. The younger guys, Caden Curry walked by me and said, "We'll be back. We're not done." Like, these guys know this was not the end of anything, but it is a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it is. So the biggest position, of course, where they have to reload is going to be at quarterback. We all know that. I don't want to hear this, that CJ Stroud has no legacy at Ohio State, that he wasn't ever tough enough. If you didn't watch that game and have an appreciation for what CJ Stroud was willing to do, everyone wanted him to run the football. Guess what? He did. And he took off for 30 yards that could have won the game, if not should have, in the fourth quarter with the game on the line. He led one of the most incredible 2-minute drives that you're ever going to see right before halftime to change that game when the momentum was squarely in Georgia's favor and put them in position to win. CJ Stroud was incredible tonight. He was a leader. He was tough. His play on the, scramble, shaking off a tackle to improvise to Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of the best plays that you're ever going to see. So I know that it's unavoidable that people are going to say he didn't beat Michigan, he didn't win the Big Ten, and then he didn't wind up winning in the Peach Bowl to win a national championship. And there's no argument against that. But to suggest that it's something against his character or against his toughness or against his ability as an NFL quarterback, or that this loss is his fault, because that's if you're saying all those things about them not winning the games, you're saying it was he who came up short. That definitely was not the case tonight.
Yeah, I haven't checked social media. I will probably not for a day, but I do think people had to be happy with what they saw, because CJ Stroud talked all year about he's going to do whatever it takes to win. And he laid it all out on the field tonight. He made himself a lot of NFL money, I think, in this game, playing against one of the best defenses athletically you're ever going to see. Ohio State's interior offensive line, Matthew Jones, what a performance by Matthew Jones and Luke Whippler and Donovan Jackson. Those three played great against Jalen Carter. Obviously, Georgia got home a couple times, but that's when they brought stuff that's unexpected. And that's the beauty of playing in a great game against a great opponent. And we had a lot of people scoffing throughout the week when you say these are the two most talented teams in the country. And you saw it. This is a heavyweight fight. And sometimes when you are in a great game against another great team, you lose. And it doesn't mean the end of a program. In fact, I think the Buckeyes will walk out of tonight feeling like they are right there, more so than they felt a month ago. The result's the same. Ryan Day said at postgame, this is a results-oriented business. He knows that none of these feel-good things matter because they didn't win the game. But if you're an Ohio State fan, I hope you're taking this away and saying, damn it, they're right there, and now it's just one extra step. Whatever it was tonight, it's one extra step. And it's not a program that's on the ropes as has been written about in the last month.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everyone will look at it, and I'm staring at the scoreboard right now, and Bill Landis said on the day that the matchup came out, he thought Georgia was going to score 40 points. They put up 42. So that's not entirely unexpected. The way that it happened, where there were long stretches of this game, most notably in the third quarter, where it looked like Jim Knowles and Ohio State had it figured out. They were going to put that game away. They were getting, they were very disciplined with their pass rush lanes. They weren't letting Stetson Bennett run around on them. They weren't giving up the explosives. Now that went away in the fourth quarter, and when it mattered most, I know that people will look at the last two games and say, are you sure about Jim Knowles? And there's going to be 9 months of those questions, just like a lot of the offseason was the year before. So Georgia's good. Yeah. They have really good talent. Did Knowles take more chances? Was it this exact same as what happened against Michigan? I personally don't think so. He did stop and talk in the locker room again for a long period of time. He said, well, in the second half, we didn't really blitz a lot. We were trying to take away the deep stuff and kind of get the game to the finish line. And one reason that they couldn't is because Lathan Ransom fell down.
Yeah, I mean, as sort of, I guess, the historian of Ohio State football on the podcast with OhioState.Rebels.com, like, that slip will go down a la Sean Springs in 1996 against Michigan as one of those plays that people are going to look back and go, how? That is sort of like the microcosm of being a Buckeye fan for the last 30 years. When you look at these opportunities that get that slip through the fingers, and slip is the operative word there. It's a play that shouldn't have happened like that. Ohio State had pressure in the face of Stetson Bennett. Zach Harrison was there. It's a toss-up throw to a guy that was wide open because the defensive back slipped. You can argue whether or not they should be in man at that point. 8 minutes to go. Georgia has to go 75 yards. They're down 11. You're like, hey, maybe they don't need to. But you're playing football to win the game there. And Georgia had not proven all night that they could out-athlete Ohio State on the edges. Brock Bowers was contained. Ohio State had a very tough time, obviously, handling the running game of Georgia at times, but Georgia didn't really seem to care about running the ball. And I think you have to appreciate that they said, let's put our athletes against their athletes, because it wasn't a mismatch. And it's a fall down. It's the ball bouncing. Stetson Bennett throws the ball backwards and it bounces right back to Ladd McConkey instead of kicking out to Tommy Eichenberg. Like, yeah. It's a 4th and 1 that did they call a timeout before the ball was snapped when Ohio State faked the punt? I personally don't think so. Doesn't matter. It's the officials not reviewing C.J. Stroud on a third down run where it looked like he extended for the first down. It's the replay when it's 4th and 1 and the Buckeyes get a stop and they overturn it. Like, there's all these miniature things that go in to a game like this, and you can pinpoint 1,000 different areas and say, if only that, but it's only 1 point, and it's only 10 yards, and it's only one play, and it's only one field goal. Georgia missed 2 field goals, right? So, like, everything balances out. I'm not trying to be overly optimistic. I'm not trying to be overly negative. I just want people to objectively, on Sunday when the New Year's Eve wears off, Ohio State belonged on this field. Ohio State was the better team in this game, and they lost. And sometimes that happens. But for the fans out there who are worried that this program is in shambles or on the edge, on the precipice of being in shambles, take that idea and throw it away, because it's simply not true. And you saw tonight what they are capable of. I guarantee you Georgia did not expect Ohio State to be that good.
I kind of feel like that they did. And maybe that the Bulldogs on the field, I had said this earlier, that they felt really confident, maybe too much so, although they deserved it. They're the defending national champions. They expected to win. I'm quite sure that the Georgia coaching staff expected a battle and got exactly what they were fearing, which is that they did not want to play Ohio State tonight. And if you look at the playoff system writ large, like, this wasn't an advantage for Georgia to have to play Ohio State. I'm sorry. Like, TCU won that game, so they also proved that they belong on the stage by beating Michigan earlier this afternoon. But, there's no way that if you gave Kirby Smart truth serum, he would have said, I'm the number 1 seed. The team that I would like to play is TCU. They would have much rather waited and seen Ohio State next week. And if they did, maybe the Buckeyes wouldn't have lost three starters to injury that week, and something else would be different. It didn't happen. I don't want to go upstairs to the press box and write the exact same what if column that I did in Glendale, whatever that was, 4 New Year's Eves ago, or New Year's Day. I don't. The time is running together, but that's how I feel. Like, that one was snatched by the refs. This wasn't that. There was just a bunch of bounces that didn't go their way, and when you have 2 elite teams, that tends to happen. As you said, sometimes you lose games, and Ohio State is going to be back. That's still a very talented locker room. There's nobody in there that's like, well, I'll never be able to win a national championship at Ohio State. They're not a team that goes for silver linings. Oh, well, we proved we were here. That's good enough. No, there were tears in their eyes. There were people slamming helmets. There were some other angrier responses from some players who missed out on their opportunity and will not be back at Ohio State. That's all fine. That happens. Everybody's going to process it differently, and I'm sure all of you watching will too.
Yep, that's it. I mean, there's not a lot more to say. It's the end of this season. There's a lot of changes coming to the Ohio State program, especially roster-wise. We expect, obviously, C.J. Stroud to be moving on to the NFL draft. We'd expect both offensive tackles to move on to the NFL draft. I think tonight is one of those moments that spur guys like Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg and Cade Stover to say, I want a chance to redeem what happened. Lathan Ransom, et cetera. It's going to be an interesting offseason, and we're going to do our best to bring all the interesting parts of it. So that's all we can really say from here. Great game. I told you, America, this was going to be a classic. I just didn't know it was going to be this sort of bad classic.
Hey, if there were people out there that didn't see any possible way that Ohio State could beat Georgia, well, I hope you enjoyed that game. It didn't turn out. Again, there's a difference between could or would. Whatever. We'll forget about the semantics. We'll move on. I think a lot of the people that were sitting in front of me in the national media learned a lesson about their words tonight as well. But we'll have those conversations another day. And Berm and I and Bill Landis will start talking about the 2023 offseason preparations for the Buckeyes in the next day or two. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not till Monday.
Probably Monday.
We'll figure that out.
We got to drive back to
We're going to drive back to the great state of Ohio. And again, as Berm said earlier, we appreciate all of you for the support for the first 5-6 months of the podcast and for our work at Dotting the I's, ohiostate.rivals.com. I know that the outcome isn't for all of you watching what you wanted, but maybe you enjoyed it anyway and had a great New Year's Eve, and we wish you the best heading into 2023. We'll see you on the other side.